As America embarks on its America First foreign policy, a lot of non-Americans are feeling, well, kind of unwelcome. In fact, dozens of countries have already issued travel advisories to their citizens. Some Dutchmen say, "Why are you going? You're going to Trump. We have tariffs. They've been set and it's going to make our country very rich." Canadians alone annually spend more than $400 million here in LA. It was not a pandemic. It was not a natural disaster. It was not even a terror attack. And yet, America's tourism industry is collapsing quietly, systematically, almost deliberately, like a slow-motion implosion happening beneath the surface while the rest of the world moves on. This year alone, the United States is expected to lose over $12 billion in international visitor spending. Nearly 10% of American tourism jobs could be erased. Hotels are empty. Airlines are rerouting planes. And what used to be one of the most powerful engines of economic growth has become one of the quietest warning signals of a much larger crisis. Because this is not just a tourism slump. This is the real cost of tariffs, trade wars, and political isolationism. And no one is talking about it. Before we continue, hit that like button to help us beat the YouTube algorithm and to show your support. Let us start with the numbers. In the year 2019, international visitors spent over $230 billion inside the United States. That figure plummeted during the pandemic, then slowly clawed its way back. But in 2025, while the rest of the world's tourism industries are recovering, the United States is falling further behind. This year, international travel spending in the United States is expected to fall below $169 billion, down from $181 billion last year. That is a $12 billion drop in just 12 months. And it is not because people do not want to travel. Global travel is booming. Airlines are full. Destinations are packed. But not in America. So what happened? The answer is not just in airline seats or hotel rates. It is in policies, in tariffs, in trade retaliation, in the diplomatic damage that is rippling outward from Washington to airports, borders, and tourist destinations across the country. Because it turns out that when you slap tariffs on your allies and threaten your trading partners, they do not just respond with counter-tariffs, they stop visiting. Let us look at Canada. After President Trump imposed a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, Canada's leaders openly called for their citizens to stop vacationing in the United States. The message worked. This year, Canadian tourism to the US dropped by nearly 20%, the biggest decline of any country. That drop is not just symbolic, it is catastrophic. Canada has historically been the single largest source of foreign tourists to the United States, and now millions of those trips are not happening. But Canada is not alone. Travelers from Mexico, the United Kingdom, France, Japan, and Germany are also pulling back. Overall, international arrivals to the US are expected to fall by nearly 9% this year. That is the equivalent of losing over $12.5 billion in spending, money that would have gone to American hotels, restaurants, airports, tour operators, and retail stores. Instead, that money is going to Europe, to Asia, to Latin America, to anywhere but here. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button to show your support to the channel. The trade war is not just hurting exports, it is hurting entry gates. In Beijing, the Chinese government issued a formal travel risk warning, telling its citizens to reconsider trips to the United States. The reason? Rising hostility, economic tension, national security concerns, and most of all, retaliation. China has been one of the fastest-growing sources of international tourists in the world. Just a few years ago, millions of Chinese travelers were pouring billions into the US economy, but now that flow has slowed to a trickle. At the same time, the European Union is openly furious about the United States doubling its tariffs on European steel and aluminum. In return, the EU is planning its own set of retaliatory measures. Among them, stricter visa rules, reduced promotional spending on American destinations, and behind closed doors, government officials are reportedly discouraging transatlantic travel altogether. In fact, travel booking data shows it clearly. European bookings to the United States are down. American bookings to Europe are up. That is not a coincidence. That is a shift in sentiment, and it is happening because of tariffs. But the damage goes deeper. America's borders have become harder to enter. Visa wait times are longer. Fingerprinting rules are stricter. Entry rules have become unpredictable. Foreign visitors now fear being detained, interrogated, or sent home, even if they have the right documents. Germany has updated its official travel advisory to warn its citizens that even a valid visa is no guarantee of entry. Spain has done the same. Canada, once the friendliest neighbour on Earth, now warns travellers about extended screenings, customs hold-ups, and new exit requirements. And when travellers are choosing between a 2-week vacation in the United States or a hassle-free trip to Paris, Tokyo, or Barcelona, they are choosing anywhere but here. Earth tourism has become a political flashpoint. The Trump administration has pledged to deny visas to anyone suspected of entering the country to give birth. That crackdown has made headlines in Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America, and has created another layer of suspicion at US entry points. The result? Trip cancellations, diverted flights, vanishing bookings, and for the first time in modern history, the United States is seeing a real decline in its share of the global travel market. This is not a blip. This is a trend. But while the tourists are leaving, so are the flights. European airlines have started cutting routes to US cities. Lufthansa, British Airways, Air France, Iberia, they are all shifting capacity toward markets with stronger demand. Miami, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. These cities are seeing reduced international frequencies, and US carriers are bracing for lighter loads this summer. The reason? Trade policies. The 10% baseline tariff on all imports with much higher rates on some goods has pushed up the cost of operating an airline in America. Aircraft parts cost more, maintenance costs more, fuel logistics are disrupted, and the knock-on effect is that flights are more expensive to operate but have fewer people to fill them. It is the worst of both worlds. And while the numbers do not lie, the politics do not help. According to Oxford Economics, the new tariff regime is expected to push US GDP growth down to about 1.4% and core inflation up to nearly 4%. That means Americans will have less disposable income, and that translates directly to fewer people flying, staying, dining, and spending. In other words, tariffs are acting like a tourism tax, one that is being paid not by diplomats or politicians, but by hotel clocks, restaurant servers, and taxi drivers. The World Travel and Tourism Council estimates that the United States could lose up to $12 billion in international visitor spending this year alone. That is revenue that will never come back. It will not be spent at the Grand Canyon. It will not be spent on Broadway. It will not be spent in Las Vegas or at Disney World. It will be spent somewhere else. And the impact is not just financial, it is personal. So Marie, a small border town in Michigan, has seen hotel bookings drop by over 70% year to date. That is not a number. That is a death sentence for dozens of family-run motel, gift shops, and small restaurants. In Flagstaff, Arizona, the city has seen a 15% decline in foreign visitors. Their tourism board is now begging Americans to fill the gap. In Las Vegas, entire tour groups from Europe and Asia are simply not arriving. Bus operators are cutting back. Tour guides are out of work. Casinos are seeing fewer international high rollers. The loss of these visitors is more than money. It is jobs. It is identity. It is the American image on the global stage, and the world is watching. Canada has already encouraged its citizens to vacation elsewhere. European governments have stopped promoting US destinations. China has formally told its people to avoid travel to America, and now other countries are quietly stepping up to take America's place. France, Spain, Mexico, Japan, Australia. They are all launching targeted campaigns to scoop up the tourists that once came here. They are offering fast-track visas, streamlined entry, discounts, promotions, and most of all, a simple message. Welcome. That is the word missing from America's rhetoric right now. Because when you make tourists feel unwanted, when you treat them like a threat instead of a guest, they stop coming. It is that simple. And the longer it continues, the harder it will be to repair. Already, tourism analysts say America may not fully recover until 2029. That is 4 more years of lost revenue, lost jobs, lost growth. It does not have to be this way. There are solutions. Visa policies can be reformed, border screening can be streamlined, trade relationships can be repaired, diplomacy can replace confrontation, and with a little humility, America can remember what made its tourism industry so powerful in the first place. Openness, freedom, hospitality. But it will take more than speeches. It will take action. Because until then, the global tourism train is leaving the station and America is not on board.